Welcome to The Instant Home, a podcast about property and creating a home. We talk about everything from renting, selling, or relocating from abroad, to interior design and property staging to get a faster sale and a better price. Our expertise is in furniture rental, which crosses over all of these subjects, so we know all the best people to bring you the inside track on finding and setting up a home from home. I'm Steve Wright, the host of The Instant Home. Today I'm joined by Alex Bloxham, partner and head of residential lettings of Bidwells letting department, and Niki Stephenson, associate and lettings negotiator. Bidwells is one of the UK's leading property consultancies. Their clients include some of the most preeminent colleges in Oxford and Cambridge, who are among the biggest landowners in the UK. Today we will discuss the Cambridge rental market and the diverse residential areas across the city, and consider the variety of demographics of the city's rental population. Good morning, guys, and welcome to The Instant Home.
Morning.
Morning, Steve.
So my name's Alex and I've lived in Cambridge for close to 25 years now, so know Cambridge very, very well. I've worked in the lettings business for close to 15 years and have worked for a couple of lettings companies in Cambridge. And the reason why I choose lettings to work in this industry is it's just so fast-paced, so varied. We work with so many different clients, people from all walks of life, and it's an incredibly active market, and it's always been incredibly buoyant in Cambridge.
Hi, Steve. My name's Niki and I've worked in the lettings industry in Cambridge now for the last 8 years. I lived in Cambridge for about that time. I joined property when I moved to Cambridge, being absolutely passionate about property renovation, property in general, and I love interiors. I thought when I moved to Cambridge, well, I might as well work in property. So Alex and I used to work together at another agency, and I ended up at Bidwells working with Alex at the front end team, looking after the investors, valuing, still supporting the property management team. And yes, absolutely love the buoyant lettings industry in Cambridge.
Oh, so the dream team. So how long have you worked together?
Gosh, Alex, it must be about 8 years, with a gap in between. Yeah.
So I've got the right people here to ask a few questions and to learn a bit more about Cambridge. Fantastic. I think the first thing I'd like to ask is that Cambridge is made up of so many different residential areas, all very diverse and unique. How do you go about advising your clients into which area would be best suited for them and their lifestyle?
I think it really depends on first of all, the budget, in terms of if we're talking about our clients as the landlords, it would be what their budget is, and then we can then start to look at where they can produce the best yields. We know obviously the best places to invest in Cambridge, and we can advise on those things. And there's so many different variances that are suited to tenants. So you can have a studio flat that's going to be suitable for one person, or a 4 to 5 bedroom property that's going to be suitable for another. So it really depends on the budget, wouldn't you say, Niki?
I would agree. And also I think, we've got such a diverse range of people moving to Cambridge. Some people know exactly where they want to be, that's linked to where they work. And some people do want that support and advice on where to move to in Cambridge. So it's that real mix of helping people see where they want to be, usually dependent on where they work, I'd say, and the sort of lifestyle they're looking for. So yeah, it's really great to chat to people about that, and we're best placed to advise on that. We've got properties everywhere, so it's great to be able to help people.
We've got a real mixture of properties in our portfolio, and we're lucky to have our new homes team that we work closely with, who are sort of involved in the selling of the new homes and working closely with the developers. So it's great that we then are sort of right at the front end of dealing with the potential investors at that point in time. So building up these relationships with the developers and the site staff, and then in turn being able to advise on any new potential clients that those site staff deal with is great for us. And fortunately, there's a lot happening in Cambridge all over.
It definitely keeps us busy, doesn't it, Alex? It really does. Yeah.
I think what you said is very interesting. When you're coming into Cambridge to do shopping or look at the universities, you don't tend to notice how many properties there are. You've got the old town and the old streets with fantastic rows of terraced houses, which make it quite interesting for us to deliver our rental furniture. Luckily, we have varying sizes to go through, varying sized doors. And then the new apartments which are popping up all over the city, hopefully with a service lift, which makes our job a lot easier. But it is amazing the amount of property that we're lucky enough to have in Cambridge.
There's so much diversity in the stock that Cambridge offers. You've got your old period properties to your brand new properties in some of the new developments. And it's all kind of interlinked and intertwined together really nicely. There's something for everyone in Cambridge as well. It's really made huge strides in the cultural aspects that Cambridge has to offer, and also, the restaurants, the bars. So for people like myself and Niki, it's a lovely place to go out, go shopping. It's just a nice place to live in.
It really is. And I think there is that link to Cambridge, its diversity. I love the fact it's so cosmopolitan, the mix of property, the mix of buildings, the mix of what there is to do in Cambridge, the arts, the restaurants, the foodie side of Cambridge, and the culture. You've got that amazing mix. And I think we hear a lot from our tenants about the vibrancy of living in Cambridge. So it's a really good link to us having talked about the diversity of our properties, the portfolio we have. It's a very vibrant city to live in. I love it. It's one of the best places I've lived in.
We're very fortunate.
We are. So yes, when we're chatting to people about where they want to live and where they want to rent, some people do have a fixed idea, but then there are people who've never lived in Cambridge before, and we might be advising them, look, you might want to be in the city centre in an older property in walking distance from the rooftop bars in Cambridge, the nice sports facilities in some of the gyms in the centre, and to be able to just walk into town. And by contrast, you've got people who do want that brand new property on the new developments. They want the ease of transport to work or into town, but they don't want to, either pay the rental price bit of being in the centre of town, or they do just like these absolute brand spanking new properties.
Absolutely. And just to echo that, it is an incredibly transient market that we're in. A lot of our tenant demographic are going to be here for a year to 2 years, and maybe their sole priority is not to necessarily experience the cultural aspects of Cambridge, and more so to be conveniently located to where they're working, if it's a family, for instance, or where the schools are located. So, Cambridge isn't a big place. So if you're going to be living near a work, generally speaking, it's only going to be a few minutes walk or cycle away from the city centre anyway. So we're fortunate that it's not particularly large location.
Maybe not a few minutes drive, though.
Maybe not a few minutes drive,
yes.
though.
And people certainly get used to the traffic here, but you hear people loving the idea of cycling around Cambridge or, using other methods of transport. People get used to the buzz of Cambridge.
There's more of those scooters as well, the electric scooters.
Definitely.
I was going to ask that. How do you guys, Dave? Do you have a Bidwells bicycle, or do you have to...
We do have Bidwells bicycles. I have to admit, I haven't used one yet, Alex. Have you?
That's terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah, no, I've used it actually. It's good. We've got an electric bike and just a normal bike as well. So it's really good, especially if you've got a valuation or you're meeting a client in the city centre where there's going to be parking issues. You just hop on the bike and it's 5 minutes and you're there.
I hope it's liveried up so you get some free advertising on
Absolutely,
the way.
yeah, it is.
Of course.
All marked
Part
up.
of our Bidwells campaign. Yeah. I mean, people very often, even from overseas, associate Cambridge with students. The students are very well looked after in Cambridge in terms of the accommodation they're provided with from their colleges, but also from some of the other agents. But it's not something we specialise in at all in terms of our tenant demographic. We don't usually rent to students. Maybe some postdocs and PhDs, don't we, Alex? But
generally speaking, our main tenant demographic is professionals. And whilst there's a huge student market in Cambridge, that area of the market isn't necessarily for us. A lot of agents do deal with the student market. I've got a lot of HMO properties, house and multiple occupation, but they come with their own issues, and there's lots of legislation in that. But it's something that we concentrate just on the professional market, and there's enough of it for us to go around.
And there is. I mean, I did some lets last week, and we're talking about people who are from the military who like living in Cambridge. They've come from Alconbury, Lakenheath, Mildenhall. They still like to be in Cambridge. They're coming to spend 3 to 5 years here. They absolutely love the culture in Cambridge, the colleges, the diversity and the essence of being in a big city. And then you've got people who work for AstraZeneca, the biomedical campus, people from Addenbrooke's, the IT sector in Cambridge, that we're attracting people working from Microsoft and Amazon. So they're the kinds of people we're renting to from all over the world. It's very interesting learning why people come to Cambridge to rent.
Absolutely. And also we've got relocation agents that we help out, and they've got their own sort of clients that they help source properties for. And, obviously a lot of people who are coming to Cambridge can't get to Cambridge in time to do all of the viewings. Obviously we'll touch on videos and how we do viewings shortly, but the relocation agents that we work closely with, they do all the legwork on behalf of their clients. So that's a whole nother pool of potential tenants for us. So that's why it's important to have these relationships with the relocation agents as well. So we're fortunate to have a really good tenant base for our Bidwells portfolio.
You touched on the liquidity of the market now, and with the COVID restrictions, I guess remote viewings using the internet, etc. Is that something that's working for you?
Oh, yeah, it's working really, really well. We weren't really concentrating on it enough, to be honest, beforehand. I think it's taken something as drastic as COVID to really emphasize the fact of how important it is for us, because before doing video tours, we would carry out viewings for lots of different people, and they would instantly know that it wasn't the right property for them when they go there. So it was a wasted journey for them, and equally it was a wasted journey for us. So in order to do video tours and use the professional photography that we've got, it saves the potential tenant a huge amount of time, because they can look at these video tours, they can look at 3 or 4 of our video tours before they even make the effort of walking out the front door, and get a feel for the property. Once they've narrowed their search down, they can then book in the viewing and go and have a look at the property. It's just completely revolutionised the way that we now operate.
It has. It's one of these things that forced the oncoming of virtual video tours for properties for lettings and sales. And it's something that, that's not going to change anymore. It's a really positive thing that's come out of it, even though the market was going that way. Bearing in mind, we deal with a lot of people who are sitting overseas. Initially looking in Cambridge, they can view half the properties they want to see before they arrive here. So it's absolutely fantastic. And it has, even from a business perspective, has, minimised, cut down the amount of viewings from a COVID restriction. And from a business perspective, it's a real positive.
We've never been busier, I would say. It's been an incredibly busy year for us. I think it's been busy for a number of different reasons. During COVID, there's been obviously during the lockdown, there's all that pent-up demand. Then people have obviously used and capitalised on the stamp duty changes. So there's a lot of people who've sold their properties, now looking to rent, to then potentially look to buy something in the future. So they're now renting. And the general market, it's always been pretty busy around the March through to September time. January teeters off sort of October. But we found this year it's been incredibly busy all throughout, and I think it's just a culmination of all those different aspects, and long may it continue.
I think so, yes. And I think we've also found that more and more people in the UK and from overseas are wanting to rent. They're making different decisions, and I guess even something like COVID forces people to rethink about their priorities, what they're going to do, where they're going to be. We're very much into hearing what people's requirements are, and some people are keeping their family homes overseas, other parts of the country, or they're just permanent renters. So it definitely keeps us very busy. People have changed their mindset and their decision-making processes, I think, don't you, Alex?
Yeah, I think, touching on the fact that people are permanent renters, we're steering towards the side of more along the side of Europe, where renting has been very big. And I don't think that there's so much of a stigma of having to get on the ladder now to earn your own property. I think a lot of people, well, A, it's very difficult to get on the ladder, to get the deposit together, for youngsters certainly. But B, I think really people quite like the fact that they can move to another property without too much hassle or grief, and also report any maintenance issues to a letting agent to deal with, And so I think in that aspect, it can be hassle-free for a tenant. You move into your property. If there's any issues, you report it to the property manager. If we manage it, and we deal with it for them. And then, if they need to leave for whatever reason, or their family grows, they can then quite easily move on to another property. And I think it just gives them that flexibility. We're finding more and more, so that eventually, maybe when people do make the decision to buy, they can jump on that.
I think, Alex, you're absolutely right as far as the European mentality of renting. I had a customer that lived in Amsterdam going back a few years, and it was just commonplace. You know, he was a professional working in the city, and there was no thought of him purchasing anything. It was just a natural progression. When he left home, he was going to rent a property. Touching on the flexibility side of it, what percentage of properties across the city are offered fully furnished? And do you find furnished accommodation is easier to let than unfurnished properties?
I would say approximately 10 to 15% properties are fully furnished. So it's not particularly, it's not very big. But when they do come on, and when we do advertise a property that's fully furnished, they attract a lot of interest. The reason I think why there aren't many fully furnished properties is because there's so much demand for property in general. People will go out to rent the furniture or have their own furniture. It depends on their own situation. If a client landlord doesn't need to provide, doesn't have to pay out for furniture because there's that demand, there's no need to. They won't. And obviously it's the rolling costs in future. So if you sort of 2, 3, 4 years down the line, if you need to replace another sofa or anything gets broken, they don't need to deal with that. So if there's a demand for unfurnished properties, why furnish it? So I think really, just to emphasise my point, when anything comes unfurnished, it attracts a lot of interest because there's not much out there.
Definitely. And I think, it's changed so much. I mean, I remember when I was at university, I had a grotty little 2-bed top floor flat with no heating, little heater. I mean, it was many moons ago, but the expectations have changed on the types of properties. Well, even for students, they have quite definitely much better properties than in my day. And I think, it really has changed so much, from when I rented. I don't know about you, Alex.
I mean, I've rented as well. And again, like you, many moons ago. Yeah. And it's I think the expectations are now much, much greater in terms of the quality of property. Landlords, are having to really invest in the property to get up to speed with the marketplace now. There's so many good quality properties out there at the moment. They really are. And if you're falling behind with general repairs and maintenance, then that will see through. You can't advertise a property. When you're doing viewings, people will pick up on those things, and you'll find it hard to simply let the property because there's Definitely. So much other good stock out there. So it's good. It's only a good thing, and long may it continue.
It is, and we have good quality properties for people. Their expectations have risen, and it's a good thing for the rental market that rental properties have improved.
Of course, a lot of the tenants who rent through us now are at the executive end of the market and, working for these large pharma companies, and their expectations are a lot higher. And they're looking for really good quality properties that are in good condition and expect a very good service from us as well.
And they don't necessarily want to go out and have to buy new furniture. They might want to rent. They've got their home somewhere else, either in the UK or overseas, and they want the ready-made package. They don't want to have to shop around for stuff, so they might want to rent a ready-made furnished property.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us today, Alex and Niki. If anyone would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
You can contact us via email or by phone. Our details are on our website, which is www.bidwells.co.uk. And both our contact details, our mobile numbers are on there. And it's very, very easy to get a hold of us. You can drop us an email or contact us on our mobiles. That's probably the best thing.
Definitely. Give us a call anytime. We'd be delighted to help. And thanks very much for having us today, Steve.
No, lovely chatting to you. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you for listening along today. We hope you found this episode interesting. Feel free to reach out and let us know your thoughts on today's discussion. We can be reached on Twitter @InstantHome, on Instagram @instant.home. Until next time, goodbye.